welcome to this week's edition of Mainly Motorsports here with Greg Emerson. And Greg hasn't even mentioned about his new attire. You know, we got him like the official Mainly Motorsports shirt now, right?
It's about time.
About time. You've earned your stripes, right? It's like the military. You've earned your stripes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good thing there's not stripes on it, because I can't remember what they tell you. The stripes on big guys, do they go up and down or side to side?
It doesn't matter.
I don't know. No matter what it is, you're still big. Yeah, you're still big. But
I've got my official Mainly Motorsports shirt. I've been wearing T-shirts with logos on them of different people that I know, and people want to send me T-shirts with their logo on it. I'll wear it on here. I'm not bashful.
Yeah. And then if they send a check with the T-shirt, then I'll make sure Greg wears it on here, right? But no, it's been fun. It's been a long, fun summer. You know, now it's kind of getting into the winter season, and things slow down for both of us. You know, and you know, the race team that you're very involved with. You know, I'm sure there's preparations for the 2012 season.
I already started skinning bodies.
Yeah, you know, getting an early jump on things, because we know that, you know, November, December are kind of two lost months because of the holidays.
The show season starts.
And then show season comes, so, you know, a lot of teams are getting preparation for that. We'll touch on that a little bit later in the show. But it's what I really like about this time of year for the motorsports standpoint is it's banquet season.
Yeah, and I believe Spud just had their banquet, and
yeah, this past weekend.
Beechridge is coming up. I think this
Oxford
weekend
had theirs last week. You know, so you know everybody. You know, Unities is coming up, and so it's going to be. You know, we just had ours at RKS last night, but you know, we'll touch on the Spud one. You know, they had you know, 5 champions up there, and Troy's done a great job with that track.
Yeah.
It's been tough because, you know, obviously the economy's hit the whole state, but
it's really tough up
there.
Yeah.
So to keep the crowd interested and the car counts coming and stuff, and you know, my hat's off to him for everything he's done. And you know, one of the things that I noticed, I mean, he's the furthest track from.
The great thing about Spud that a lot of people don't realize is they get a lot of draw from Canada. You know, they get a lot of crossover people that come over from Canada and race there. You know?
And watch the races. And
so that's Maine's international racetrack.
Maine's international racetrack, but you know, I want to throw a shout out to their 5 champions. You know, Sean Dooley, Derek Finnemore, who is up for a Mainly, Keith Tebow Jr.,
Dylan McDougall.
Dylan McDonald, and then Jeff Willett. And Jeff Willett's just one of those guys. He's out and about. He's all over the Maine Racing Forum board.
Right.
You know. In a positive manner, and talking about late model racing, you know, supporter of all the tracks. Comes down to the Northeast Motorsports Expo. You'll see his business, Willett's Automotive, as a scroll sponsor here on Mainly Motorsports. So he supports us for what we try to do. And
he's a good guy. He's involved in all aspects of it, and he, like you said, on the board, he has a lot of positive comments, and so it's good to see him succeed. You know. Yeah,
and I met Jeff 2 or 3 years ago. We traveled up there for the first Spud 150 when Troy brought the track, and that was where young Austin Terrio first came to light and winning his first race.
Speaking of Austin Terrio,
well, I'm not done with Jeff yet.
Okay.
But that's what I met Jeff was up there, and his little boy come over, Noah, and his wife Jill brought him over, and he says, I really want to talk to, he wanted to meet me because he watches on TV and stuff. Right. So it's pretty neat. You know, the kids, they feel like, and we are nothing, and I know that, but to a little kid, you know, somebody they get to see that's on TV, it's a pretty big deal. So, and his wife and Noah are very supportive of everything he does up there.
Right, yeah, and, you know, for him to pull a championship this season, that's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's hard to win a championship at any level, any division, any type of racing.
And you mentioned Austin Terrio, and I know what you want to talk about, but I want to talk about, here's Jeff Willett. Now let's take this guy, right? He's an older, 30-ish or whatever, running a late model. This 14-year-old kid shows up, takes it to you. You know, I mean, he's got good equipment, he's got good talent. Instead of being jealous and the situation and being negative towards Austin, he is probably one of Austin's biggest supporters as far as following along when he's racing down south, following along.
He noticed the talent.
Yeah, following along, supporting him at the, you know, cheering for him at Oxford, cheering for him at these races. So, you know, that says a lot about Jeff Willett, the person, you know.
Right.
And but now you can have the floor about Austin.
So it was kind of late breaking news, but Austin is actually, as we're taping the show, he's running in the World Crown 300 in Gresham Motorsports Park in Georgia for Brad Kozlowski Racing. And the thing that a lot of people might notice about it if they go on Speed 51 or notice the Facebook comments or whatever is they might recognize the name Gary Crooks, he has an operation down south, and he maintains the cars for Brad Keselowski. But Gary has been up in Maine this year, crew chief for Lonnie Somerville for the Mulkern Racing team. And Gary is the crew chief for Austin this weekend because he takes care of Brad's stuff, like I said. And from prior to us shooting the show, they haven't run the race, so hopefully we'll be able to talk about it a little bit more next week. But
yeah, and how it's finished.
It's great to expand, on the.
It's a good opportunity, right. I'm sure the family's down there.
Yeah.
Saw Scott and Vicky Mulkern down there, so which they are friends with the Terrio family,
and Gary,
and it's a great opportunity for Austin because he's at a level up here, and it's like it's your young anybody up here, to get really recognized and get really noticed. I mean, you can get recognized by beating them up here, but you really don't get noticed until you beat them down there.
Right, and I know Austin has some stats when you put him in a car a couple years ago, but he really doesn't have a lot of super late model stats at all. And we said, there's very limited information at this time, but he's running very competitive practice times.
Yeah, his practice times, everything, and so
hopefully he has a good finish.
Yeah,
we can talk about it next week.
It'd be nice and get him on the show and get him on the air and
right.
Talk about his experience. Compare that to some of the other things he's done. But I touched earlier that we had our banquet last night at RKS, and I'll tell you, they, obviously they treat it a little different because they're honoring kids.
Right.
Whereas we're honoring adults at Beech Ridge. I know that some of them are still in high school or whatever. Young Ryan Phillips going to be crowned a champion as a high school senior.
It doesn't matter. You won a championship.
But we over there, I mean, they start the thing off with fog and light show and music and just slideshow. It's just crazy. It's crazy, and the kids just get pumped right up. And we had a great time. And a couple special things that happened. Alicia was last year's recipient of the Sportsmanship Award, and it was done last year by vote. People had to actually email in and vote. So it really makes you proud, when they get recognized. And I remember when she came and sat down, she had no idea. We had no idea. And she had tears in her eyes saying, Dad, this means more to me than my championship. And I said, no, I can imagine, So what they did this year is they had her and Isaac Collins, who were the two recipients of the two most recent sportsmanship awards, give their own sportsmanship awards. So it's a new tradition they're going to start. They're going to give two sportsmen, so who they felt. And Isaac picked a young man by the name of Jacob Nichols, races in a class actually below Isaac, but just, the comments of how he, he's fun to be around, he's friendly, he gets out no matter what kind of day he has, he still has a positive attitude, and that's what you want. And that's what I've been telling my kid is sportsmanship isn't only what you do on the track and in the cart or car, it's what you do off the track, out of your fire suit, or in so it came her time, and she had talked about this a couple weeks ago. She knew she had to do it, and she didn't know, Jad, what do you think? I said, this is your deal, this is the criteria, this is what you need to look at, So she got thinking, and she went with and I want to say, young man, might be one of the oldest competitors up there, and I'm not putting her on age, I don't know how old he is, but he's got kids and older kids, but the man's name is Richie Tebow Sr., and he runs a mini cup up there. He happened to be the champion, but he's got other mini cups that he lends to people to so they can race.
Right.
He helps people try to get theirs better. He's very supportive of RKS and what they do. He's very supportive of the whole mini cup division and what they do, and try to promote the sport and everything, So, and when he got up there, he was pretty honored, and he grabbed the microphone, and he was one of he talked, and he said, I'm being crowned a champion tonight. This award, to me, from her, means more than the championship, because somebody, not that he's trying to impress anybody, but he's made a good impression on somebody,
Well, the whole thing about winning a championship, is being recognized. You've made a mark, and now that is like a solidifying award. It solidifies that you've made a mark. You know, people recognize you for what you do other than actually the racing. You know, so
Yeah.
I can understand what would be a special award to receive. So.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. And then the Perry family, we got recognized as race team family, I guess race family of the year or something. And
Yep.
pretty neat. And, you know, anybody that knows me, and obviously people that watch this show know, we do a lot and have done a lot in the past for RKS. And, you know, obviously my daughter raced there. And she just did her 4 years. And, you know, we've sold our stuff and looking to move on now. And but it was pretty neat to be recognized with my wife and my 2 daughters on stage, you know, and it was pretty neat. So it gave me a chance to reflect and say some nice things about the people up there, and it's a good time. And you know, it wasn't no crew chief or mechanic of the year, which if that had been, then it would have been a fix. Because anybody that knows me, I go racing, I don't bring a tool. My buddy Big Rob takes care of me. He brings a big toolbox. Well, we had a race at the end of the year, 2 races, 2 weeks in a row. He couldn't make it because Ivan was playing football, so he couldn't make it. So I'm out there without no tools. So my other buddy Chris Nelson, and he's on the other side, and so I'm borrowing tools from Nelson, right? The last day I bring him back this whole thing of tools. He goes, "What's that?" I go, "They got to be yours because I don't have any." So and I said, "They ain't Rob's, so they got to be yours." I never gave them back to him. So it's just great. So it wasn't a crew chief or mechanic of the year. It was for a race family of the year because we do a lot for there. So I appreciated that. But we got a great show today planned, and finally, we didn't talk about it last week because I wanted to see what all the consequences were going to be. We're going to give our take on the Kyle Busch thing, and not that it matters to anybody, but we'll see what our opinions are on what he's done and what he's created. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back on Mainly Motorsports.
Hey, are you Bob Crowley?
Hey, yeah?
Are you going to Ossipee Trail?
Yes, I am.
Sweet! Get in!
People will do whatever they gotta do to get to Ossipee Trail Motor Sales, Route 25, Gorham.
Patman's Redemption and Agency Liquor Store is located at 95 Tanberg Trail in Windham, Maine. With over 400 feet of hard liquor and 15 doors of ice-cold beer and soda, Patman's can handle all of your beverage needs. And if it's wine on your agenda, we have over 300 varieties in stock. Then when the party's over, Patman's can handle all of your main returnables, and we welcome all bottle drives. And if you're late for the race, drop off the bottles and pick up the cash at your convenience.
Hey, this is Pat Man himself, just letting you know that Pat Man's is your one-stop shop for all your thirsty needs.
Well, I know there's only a few big announcements throughout the state of Maine each and every year. You have the Fitzpatrick, which is the top high school football player. You have the Mainleys winner. Everybody gets fired up and find out about the Mainleys. But then you also have the Maine Vintage Hall of Fame class announcement. And that was made last week. And 5 new inductees to be going into the Maine Vintage Hall of Fame, which, you know, we're not going to say them yet, but all very worthy people, you know, and if you have never experienced
the people on the nomination list for that
are a who's who,
and they're all very worthy.
Maine motorsports. But if you have never witnessed that banquet up there, it is something that if your team is ever recognized to be the driver of the year, which Dan has a few times, I went up with Mike. It's just you sit there and you just
the best part about it, I mean, it's just pretty much like any other banquet, other than the fact these are legends in the state of Maine, and they get to get up and give this speech and talk about their past. And, you know, some talk a lot, some talk for 30 seconds.
Yeah, but it's just...
But that's their personality.
You know what, what thrills me more than that is to just be sitting there.
In the room full of legends.
Of guys that were making their mark on motorsports when I was sitting in the grandstands, you know, eating my popcorn.
Right. Now we're starting to get into the guys that were
our era.
Right.
But you know what I mean? You know, and then they announce, you know, you got Ralph Cusack, Dickie Walsenhume, you know, Bob Libby up there, you know, Gardner Levitt. I mean, these guys are already in, but they come up each year, and it's just to go up and be around those people. It's just an amazing thing. I think this year's is in March, And they have it at the Augusta Civic Center. And
it's one of the greatest social hours that you'll attend because, you know, any banquet that you go to, the social hour, there's still a little racing season just got over and blah, blah. And, you know, races are races. But this is like, these guys used to be just like a lot of us are right now. But now they're up there and they're all chummies and buddies. And, you know, it's a great time. And just to hear some of the old stories is fantastic. I love it.
And so if you haven't heard, this year's 5 inductees are Glenn Andrews, who made his mark up at Oxford.
Yep.
Many feature wins, and you know, been around Oxford for a long time, and then traveled over the Thunder Road.
Yep. And then Ray Leach, who's a 3-time champ at Beech Ridge, and he was making his mark when I was right when I was starting to go.
Driving Miss Vanessa.
Yeah.
And anybody that remembers Amanda, that was co-host here for a couple seasons back, that's her grandfather, and that's who introduced her to the sport, and that's who brought her to Mainely Motorsports. You know what I mean? It's because of that connection. And there's a lot of Leach. Leach is a big name out there.
Yeah.
A lot of family members. So it's great to see Ray Leach in. And then Bob Morris. Bob Morris was a long-time writer up in the Oxford area for the Oxford races, and that's how you used to keep up on track of what was going on.
There was no
racing
Mainly
paper.
Motorsports.
There was no Mainly Motorsports. There was no internet. It was the Sun Journal and those type of things, and Bob Morris was huge in that. That he started the Maine Vintage Association, which transpired into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
He was very, very instrumental with Tim Ataya and the starting of the Northeast Motorsports Expo.
Yeah.
And and Bob, that was...
He was also very instrumental in the starting of the Maine Vintage Race Car Association and the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and, so he... one of the highlights of my 2 years of association and ownership of the Northeast Motorsports Expo was last year when I watched Bob Morris and his mom show up at the door. I was like, wow, because he... Tim Ataya started it, but Bob was right there with him doing the website and doing a lot of work with it, and, he'd been sick over the last few years, but he, his health was well enough last year that he could make the trek up. So, and that was pretty neat to see him up there traveling around,
Yeah, and it's always good when somebody's been down and out to see him back up and moving, So,
oh, yeah, it is.
Congrats. And then we had Conrad Taylor, who was announced as a recipient. And he's a 9-time championship crew chief.
Up at Oxford.
You might recognize the last name, folks.
Yeah, his son Jeff, who's still at the top of his game.
Right.
And, anybody was over to Distance Racing Products and had their cars built and things, Conrad was always there and hanging the bodies and always willing to stop and talk to you and joke and laugh and, tell a story. And, so, very deserving of Conrad. And it's... I know it's Conrad's award, but it's kind of, in this situation, it's like a team. It's got to be a very special thing, for what him and his son Jeff were able to do and accomplish over their years at Oxford. So that's going to be a very special time.
9-time champion.
Yeah, there's guys that don't win 9 races in their career.
Right.
These guys won 9 championships, and they're not done.
Right.
And then Bobby Turner. The
legend.
Probably the younger one of the group, raced modifieds for years, sat on the inaugural pole, the inaugural Spring Sizzler. Many time feature winner at Beech Ridge, driving for the Coup de Marche, driving for himself, still heavily involved in the motorsport side of things with the Maine Vintage Group.
Yep.
So
and I remember Bobby Turner racing when I was a kid, modifieds, but he was a traveler back, in the 80s and going to all the big. They weren't NASCAR modified races at the time, I don't believe they were, but it was like this modified outlaw group that went around, the Richie Evans, the Bugsy Stevens, and Bobby Turner was part of that group of traveling guys.
Just modified race, show up and run it.
Yeah.
So congratulations to all 5 of them. If you want more information, you just go to their website or follow along on their Facebook page, and they will get you the information as far as the banquet and banquet tickets. And I know last year they sold out, so I don't know if I think it's still at the Augusta Civic Center. There was talk that they might move to a different venue up there, maybe the main auditorium where most of the show goes. But, it's something that everybody, if you ever get the chance, you want to experience.
It's a really good time. Yeah.
Similar to Summerfest. We traveled down to Summerfest, and we brought, the Melvin interview to you and a couple others back,
Yep.
a couple months ago. But we have a couple in the archives and thought this would be fitting to bring
Tie
these
them in,
out
yep.
at the same time. And when we come back from this break, you'll hear from Rick Zemler, who was making his first trek back to Beech Ridge and on the track in over, 20, 30 years. I think it was over 20 years.
Right.
To be back on the track at Beech Ridge in a car that his brothers prepared and, one of Rick's old replicas.
Yeah.
And then we caught up with I call him a young man, but his name's Jimmy Riley, and longtime fan of Mike Rose, crew member for many years of Mike Rose, took the Flying 5 and made a replica of Mike Rowe's car. And pretty neat to see Mike Rowe out there driving around in something similar to what he drove years ago. So
Yeah, he almost ran us over in the pits driving it.
And the day before he blew the engine in it, but doing it at Arundel Speedway. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, you'll hear from these guys and hear what they have to say about the day at Summerfest.
Award Champs, rewarding your champions. The official supplier of Mainely Motorsports.
Is it time to replace that old car, but past credit problems are getting in the way? At JT Motors, credit issues are a thing of the past. We have vehicles for any need. Growing family? How about a minivan? With winter here, come in and browse our great selection of four-wheel drive utilities. With a low down payment, you can qualify for this program despite those past credit issues. That's JT Motors, 650 Roosevelt Trail, Windham, where you always drive away with a smile on your face.
All of us at Moody's Collision Centers would like to thank you for supporting us for over 30 years.
We all own stock in Moody's and have a vested interest in you and your vehicle.
The people at Moody's Collision Centers are part of the community, and our reputation is very important to us.
We take pride in our work and guarantee our repairs for as long as you own your vehicle.
At Moody's Collision Center, we care about our customers.
So when your insurance company asks where you want to go, tell them Moody's Collision Centers. 4 convenient locations: Gorham, Scarborough, Biddeford, and now Portland.
You're watching Mainly Motorsports, brought to you by Scott's Recreation, now at 3 convenient locations. Go to scottsrecreation.com to view their inventory. Clark's Car Crushing, located in Hollowell, providing guaranteed honest weights with top dollar being paid.
Okay, we're walking around here Summerfest, and we caught up with a guy that it's been 21 years since you've been on this track at Beech Ridge Motor Speedway, and that's Rick Zemler. Today you're going to get the opportunity to take this car around that your brothers and you put together, and it's a lot of history, and maybe not this particular car, but this design and this replica of a car.
Yeah, this is basically one of the first cars that I ever drove. We were fortunate enough to get Rookie of the Year, and he's done a nice job rebuilding it. And he asked me to come out, so I thought I'd like to go around the track one more time.
Now, there's a lot of guys like you that still, you race, you had a lot of success here. This is a fun day, but when you get out there and you pull onto the track from the 3-turn, just imagine the memories that are going to go through your head of all the memories that you made here for yourself, your family, and everybody, your fans,
Yeah, I think about that even when I'm not out there. I still would like to race, but I think it's gone by me by now.
Yeah, and you obviously had a great career, and speaking of that great career, I think back over the years of all the tracks in the state and some of the dominating performances I've seen from people, and one that always goes to the top of my list were the 2 years that you put together here at Beech Ridge in the late model class, with 14 wins in 1982 and 11 wins in 1983, both track championships. It was just, those were phenomenal years.
Yeah, it was dream come true. Steve Roman and Bill Griffin built the car, and they maintained it to the hilt. The car always went good, and we had a lot more success than I ever thought I was ever going to have, but it was fun doing it.
Yeah, and we talk about Steve Roman. He was a guy, I don't know if he even ever got behind the wheel, but as a crew member, crew chief, I think of him as being ahead of his time. I think he was 5 or 10 years ahead of everybody with his ingenuity, his knowledge, his pay attention to details, so to speak.
Oh yeah, he tore that car apart every week. We could come out here and not touch anything and win the feature and go back in the garage that week, and it would almost be in pieces. He'd take everything apart and start from scratch.
Now, how much in today's racing world do you follow along with some of the talents, the younger talents of that are racing around the state of Maine?
Oh, I follow it pretty good. I don't get to as many races as I used to, but I still read all the results, talk to people. I kind of know what's going on, and some of these young kids, the Sanborn boy, I mean, these kids are really good.
Yeah, they are. They really are.
Yeah, back in my day, we didn't have the opportunity to race as young as they did. There wasn't go-karts and the preliminary stuff, but I'm not saying that. I just wish that we had that back then too, because it could have made it a lot more fun for us too. But these kids are really good today.
Yeah, and I tell people, I think that's why these kids, when they start at 16 and 17, they're not just learning racing. They already know how to race. They already know what the flags mean. They already know how to pass. They already know how to treat the competitors because of the 4 or 5 years experience they have in the go-karts and some of these entry-level divisions. That's correct.
First time I get on this racetrack, I probably aimed it. I didn't drive it. I didn't even know how to get around the place. But it's everything progresses, and they sure have a nice place here now.
Oh yeah, they do. Well, I know I'm excited for you, Rick. 21 years after the fact that you took your last laps around here, you get to take them again today. Obviously, it's not in a competitive manner, but still, the right's on the gas is on the right, and I know you're going to push it for all it's worth. And hopefully, you bring it back without a scratch, and just add to the memories that you've had and made here at Beach Ridge Motor Speedway.
That's what I want to do, but I hope it doesn't want me to get back here.
All right. Well, good job, and thank you, Rick, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice talking to you.
See ya.
Hi, this is Greg Emerson. I'm down here at Summerfest with Jimmy Riley, who's replicated the Fast 5 that Mike Rowe drove for many years down to Oxford Plains. Why don't you give us a little background history on the car and talk about how long it took you to do it and who helped you put it back together and stuff like that, Jim?
It's a 76 Pontiac Ventura that Mike drove in 1980, and it took me about a year or so to put it together. Mike gave me a lot of the running gear parts for it, but the car there's none of it that's the original car, unfortunately.
Yeah, Mike, I was talking to Mike earlier, and he said something about a lot of those things he cut up and tossed in the dumpster.
Yeah, we were driving through Auburn one day, and Mike says, "There's where my old cars are over there." And I'm like, "Where?" "That's the old dump," he says. We used to cut them up and throw them over the bank.
Yeah. So you took it out to Arundel Speedway yesterday, huh? And made a few laps, and something about Mike Rowe doesn't know how to not stand on the gas or something like that.
Yeah, I guess he thought he was racing. He was trying to set a fast time, I guess. And we blew up the motor that we had yesterday. My friends that I helped race over to Lee, they give me one of their motors. They head over to their garage, and we went over to Berwick yesterday afternoon and put another motor in.
Well, that's cool. I mean, so you got it running for today.
Yeah.
I'm from the middle school of racing, what I call the middle school. There's the early school, and I started going to the races in the late 70s and through the 80s until today, And one of the impressions that was made on me when I first saw this car, I'm like, you got to love the hand lettering on these cars. We don't do that anymore these days because of expense, but talk about the guy who did the hand lettering on this.
The thing about it is Mickey, I can't pronounce his last name, but he used to letter Mike's old cars, and he actually lettered this car this replicate when it was new, and he letters Mike's dump trucks and stuff, and he did all this lettering, and him and Butch and Benji figured out from the couple pictures we had of this car that what all the lettering was, because this Matthews and Morris was obvious, but some of the other things we couldn't quite make out in the photos, and they figured it out, and he painted it up, and he said, "Geez, it looks just like it did back then." He says, "You've done a good job with it," and Butch told Mike it looks better than the car we used to race.
Now, is that Butch Craig that used to own it?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but he, I guess he gave us his stamp of approval, so it made me feel better because, you do something like that, someone makes it, and, then, you always get the impression they're going to, "Oh, that's nothing like what we did," what I mean? So when he said it looked good, it made me feel better.
Yeah. And what's funny about something like this is Mike Rowe, we know he still races and he's still competitive today, but when you walk up to Mike and he's standing by this car or something, there's like an extra twinkle in his eye, you know? It's like he remembers the days. And him and Al Hammond were talking earlier, and Al's like, whichever one of us got to the front was who won that night, you know? All right, Jim. Well, thanks for giving us some time and letting us take a peek at the Fast Five.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, I'm Kyle Busch, and when I'm in Maine, I watch Mainly Motorsports.
Thinking about a new camper? What if you could get a new camper now and not pay for it till next year? Now you can at Scott's Recreation. Buy a new travel trailer, we'll make your payments until January 2012. Buy any new fifth wheel, we'll make your payments until March 2012. Over 100 units in stock and online at scottsrecreation.com. Camp now, pay later.
Scott's Recreation, Route 4 Turner and Route 202 Manchester, Maine.
Life in Maine is all about outdoor fun and being close to nature. Southern Maine Jeep is all about delivering you the best selection and the best prices at one location. Live it up with a new 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee, increased horsepower and mileage, or go for the all-new look of the Jeep Compass 4x4. If Maine had a state car, it would be the Jeep. No other vehicle has the capabilities that come standard on every Jeep. No other dealer is working as hard to be #1 as Southern Maine Motors.
You're watching Mainly Motorsports, brought to you by LKQ Corp. Any part, any repair, anywhere. Located on Route 202 in Gorham. Moody's Collision Centers, now in 5 convenient locations. Biddeford, Gorham, Portland, Sanford, and Scarborough.
Now, in the last couple segments, we've talked about some of the old-time races that weren't afraid to stir the pot and create some controversy. But now let's talk about this modern-day cat. And has a connection to Maine because of his racing up here in the 250 and, you know, some of his friendships that he's garnered up here. And that's Kyle Busch. You know, last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, you know, the whole deal with Ron Hornaday where he just snapped, basically snapped, and did what he had to do or what he thought was what he had to do. And then what happened from NASCAR and all that.
And following the event and after a good deal of conversation and discussion, NASCAR has decided to maintain that parked position.
I mean, I don't know. We haven't, and realistically, we haven't even talked about it. We really haven't talked about it. So we're going to hear what both of us think about everything right here today, you know. And I mean, it was an unfortunate incident for everybody involved.
I like Kyle Busch, and this is not why I'm saying this, but Ron Hornaday is no saint.
No, exactly.
That's how I'm going to start it.
You know, I remember Ron Hornaday a couple years ago, okay? Now, he should be the last guy that talks about Kyle Busch coming down to the truck series and bringing his big boy toys to play with little boys. Because I remember Ron Hornaday out at one of those all-star events out at Irwindale when the Busch North guys would compete with the West guys and try to, you know, somebody had the vision to put him in a car. And he was a menace. He hit everything out there. You know, I think he even hit a couple cars in a parking lot. I mean, he just run into everything and he didn't care. He didn't have a dime invested, did not care. So he shouldn't be out there saying that, you know, maybe it's time for Kyle not to come run those races. But
here's a good Ron Hornaday story for you. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Kyle Fredrickson, who's the publisher of Speedway Illustrated, and we were talking about this very situation the other day on the phone. And he's like, and I'm going to share his story. He goes, you know, a few years ago we did a story on Ron Hornaday and how he gets off to good restarts and stuff. He goes, there's a story about him back when he used to race in Saugus, California, and he was taking off on restarts, and he'd hold his hand out the window like he's cooling his, you know, bringing the cool air in, and he's got his other hand up adjusting the mirror as they're coming for the restart, and he's staring with his knees, and he'd take off. So the guys behind him used to think his hands weren't on the steering wheel, and he'd take off and jump the restart, you know. So he's no saint. You don't know if when Kyle Kyle might have just been going up and to rattle his cage and whack him in the back of the truck, you know. You don't know. You don't know. You weren't out there. I wasn't out there. you don't know if Hornaday jumped on the brakes right then. You know, it didn't look like it, and this is my opinion. But Kyle, when Hornaday ran Kyle up into the wall right before that. You know, was it racing? Yeah, guys get hot in that car. I've said it for years. I don't care who the driver is. You put a helmet on, and they are going to turn into a different animal.
Oh.
That's why successful race car drivers are successful.
Yeah, no, and I hope you really don't believe that Hornaday was on the brakes right then, because I'm sure.
No, I'm just saying, but you don't know. Nobody really knows.
No, and I agree with you, but Kyle knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
It was under caution, okay? Kyle, at that point, still had a vehicle that could win the race. Hornaday didn't. You know, Hornaday is done. Do I think... I'm not a big Hornaday fan, but, you know, crossing the line there, I mean, it's under caution.
This safety work is headed out because it was under caution for a reason. This safety work is headed out on the track.
You know, you
It's
catch
not
a guy,
right.
you're doing 120, and you get him up to 160.
Do I think NASCAR did something that they had to in this situation? Yes.
Yeah, they parked him for the weekend. I mean,
the thing that ticks me off the most about that really gets my gall the most about the whole situation with the Kyle Busch thing. It's not that he crashed Ron Hornaday. You know, they've since talked on the phone and whatever. Who cares? It's the fact, and this is becoming a more prevalent thing in NASCAR, and it gets. Dave might have to bleep in a second here.
Fire it out.
Because the whole sponsorship thing. I understand he's representing a company, but at that time, he didn't have M&Ms on his truck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't have any. He had certain, if he had Hood on his truck, which Scott Blake, who's a local guy, is involved with that. If he had Hood a hell of a good on his truck, like he did at the Oxford 250, and did something like that, and they came unglued on him, perfectly understandable, because at that time, he's representing that company. Now, granted, he's a spokesman for M&M's, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is how much, we know how much influence the sponsors have in the sport of NASCAR right now, because you could have a good driver, and because the sponsor says, hey, we don't like this guy, David Ruderman got swept under the rug after he carried Michael Waltrip Racing for how many years?
Oh yeah, no, it's a sponsor-driven game now. That's one thing that I'm a race fan, obviously.
Kyle's a racer,
but that's one thing that separates the other sports from.
Right.
You know, the only thing you got to deal with is the public outcry. You might not. They might lose sponsors. I mean, Tiger Woods lost sponsors. You know what I mean? The athlete Michael Vick lost sponsors.
Right.
But if they can still perform. Okay,
they're going to keep their.
They're going to keep their job, and and the sponsors aren't going to say, And
other sponsors will come.
Yeah,
and
I think M&M's overreact. I think Interstate Batteries this past weekend was a major marketing coup.
Yeah.
I mean, the three things they're going to talk about: Stewart, Edwards, and Kyle
Busch.
Busch
Having Interstate Batteries on his car.
So
it's a very tough situation, and
I mean, I can understand, but I think they overreacted. And
I think they should have put a black M&M's car out there and said, we're going to have a limited edition black Kyle Busch M&M's or something.
And it is weird, but race fans are passionate.
Yeah.
Very passionate. My friend works at Lowe's, okay? He told me when Joe Gibbs Racing changed to Toyota a few years ago, they picked up customers. People came there and were talking to him and this, that, and the other, and yeah, I used to always go to Lowe's, but I'm not supporting them because they now sell.
Home Depot, you mean?
Yeah, I used to go to Home Depot, but I'm not going to support Home Depot anymore because they've switched to Toyota cars. Joe Gibbs has. But I'm telling you,
Toyota is one of the biggest car manufacturers in America.
But I'm telling you, that's the race fans are passionate.
I understand what you're saying,
but I don't think.
I made a comment on Facebook the other day because M&M's announced that they will be back with Kyle in 2012, and they're all working through the problem, or whatever. But I made a comment on Facebook the other day. I would really hate to have to not eat M&Ms again.
Yeah, you know. I mean, so I don't think. I mean, it's just hopefully it's over and done with.
Yeah.
Like nothing more than to see Kyle regroup through the winter. I mean, does he have some issues? He told you he's had some issues. For me to say he's sitting here, he's got issues. It ain't nothing new. He's told you, and maybe this is the one that And anybody that has been involved with Kyle from, on our race team and other race teams, or worked with Kyle on his trips up here to the Northeast to compete, knows how bad that cat wants to win.
Yeah.
So how can you fault a guy for wanting to win? But in the same sense, he's got to be able to lose graciously.
It's kind of funny, but it's not. And it's not that they're slamming Kyle Busch, but I can't remember who it was, but somebody else made the comment on Facebook that Kyle Busch is the real life Ricky Bobby. Now, Ricky Bobby in the movie Talladega Nights was a tool, but if you ain't first, you're last. And that's the same mentality that Kyle Busch has about anything he gets into. The guy is a racer. If you watch him at anything, he works on his own stuff.
Yeah.
He knows he's a modern day chassis man who's a racer. He's a modern day Ed Howe. He's a modern day Mark Martin, Rusty Wallace. These guys knew their cars.
Yeah, they had to know the adjustments to make.
Right. But he's a modern day version of it. All these more technical things, and it's just a shame that his temper steps he walks the gangplank a lot.
Oh yeah, he does. Well, hopefully not no more.
Right.
But we're gonna take a break. Enough on Kyle, and we'll be right back.
That's our take. We're off the soapbox.
Yeah, we're off the soapbox. We'll take a break. We'll be right back on Mainly Motorsports.
Clark's Car Crushing has been a family-owned and operated business since 1978. We do everything from crushing cars, handling industrial scraps, to buying the scrap metal right out of the back of your pickup. Copper, brass, stainless steel, aluminum, you name it, we'll buy it. We have roll-off containers of all sizes for industrial accounts. We'll handle the legwork with full drop-off and pickup services. So for a professional job, guaranteed honest weights, and top dollar paid statewide, come see the Clark family in Farmingdale, Maine. Clark's Car Crushing. Don't fix it, scrap it.
You're watching Mainly Motorsports, brought to you by Northern Race Tire, dealer for Sunoco Race Fuels, distributed by New England Racing Fuel.
Well, 2 weeks ago, we brought you sleds on grass, right?
Yeah, the grass drags.
The grass drags. A month ago, Willie the Shooter was over to Epping, caught sleds on asphalt.
Yeah, and this is a thing that it happens more than people realize. Most drag events now, especially in the northern part of America, they have sleds on asphalt.
Yep.
They run little wheels on the
One of our scroll sponsors, Keith Wood from Team Woody's, huge into that over at Oxford.
Yeah, they run slick tracks and all this stuff, and they get it done on asphalt with a snowmobile.
Down to Epping, you have the National Speed Association. They travel around. We got a lady who's very involved in it, Kristen Stanley, who we're going to have on in a few weeks when we do our all ladies show. That she really gets it done. I mean, this is the wife everybody needs to have, huh? She get the kids to school on time and all that. But we did catch up with Jeff Kerridge, who was the world record holder for sleds on asphalt, and a local guy, Dan Meyer. Right here from I think Gray, and traveled down there, and that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's hairy.
Oh, can you imagine?
Road rash. I mean, Jeff's world record is insane.
183 miles an hour in a quarter mile. Can you imagine going 183 miles an hour on a sled?
No. I've been 120, and that's plenty fast enough.
Oh, yeah. For me. No, you feel like you're moving all around. So we've had him on grass. Now you're going to see him on asphalt. I promise we'll have him on snow before long. So enjoy this segment on Mainly Motorsports.
We're talking to Jeff Kerridge from Niles, Michigan. Jeff, you've come a long ways to come up here to ride. Tell us what brings you up here.
Well, we were invited out here by Terry Queenan. He's really trying to promote the sport. It was about a 19-hour trip for us. We were assured that this was one of the fastest tracks. We've been to, we're from Michigan, so Martin, Michigan is in our backyard, and we hold the world record there. And then we've been to Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia, which was a very good track also. Came down here, and a couple of limitations on our own part, but the track was extremely fast.
I'm looking at the sled, and it looks like a snowmobile, but it's far from a snowmobile. Tell us a little bit about the sled.
Well, the snowmobile originally started out as a 2006 Yamaha Apex. After extensive modifications, a turbocharger, different suspension, modifications to the exhaust, a lot of internal modifications, producing about 600 horsepower. We've been able to reach speeds in the area of around 183 mile an hour.
I saw that it had 600 horsepower on your sheet over there. That's amazing for a sled to have that kind of horsepower.
It's unbelievable what these turbochargers and superchargers are capable of doing. The motor originally started out at 150 horsepower from Yamaha manufacturer, and then with the increase of the, they call them power adders, it just quadruples the horsepower. Of course, along with that goes extensive breakage and parts that need to be upgraded, but the Yamaha platform has really been phenomenal for us.
Yep. Now I see you've got a really great support system here. You've got a lot of people that are chipping in here, and they're working. Every time I come over here, they're running around doing stuff. Tell us a little bit about that.
For sure, Ken Smith, the financial backer of our for everything that we have, it just does an awesome job providing for us anything that we need. With him, we have several people that help out, along with Dennis Mott from Mott Motorsports, who does all the sled building, all the engineering, all the design is all back from him. Other people such as Proline Suspensions and One Stop Performance Ignitions, and there's just a list of people that help us get to the position we're at. We couldn't have never done it with all those people.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. Now, what got you into sleds? I mean, have you been doing this for years, or?
I've been riding sleds since I was probably 3 years old. I started out in ice dragging, grass dragging, met Dennis through that. Dennis started asphalt a couple of years before. He called me up, needed a driver. He wanted to focus mainly on the design, the engineering, and production of the sled. He needed somebody to be in the seat so that he could watch the things that were working and do the improvements. I give him the feedback, and he makes it go faster.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, this is the first time I've seen the Outlaw class run. Very impressive. You guys are amazing. Job well done. So.
Well, thank you very much. And as you see, with all these people working, there's no one person that makes it work. I just get the opportunity to ride in the seat, and these people all make it happen for me. Ron is just a huge financial backing in anything we need for the sport. Dennis has the technology, along with the other sponsors I mentioned, Cargill's Welding and Hecker's Yamaha. People like that really make things work, and it really helps out a lot. And then also I'd like to thank Mark from Supreme Tool. Without his clutches and machining advances, we wouldn't be here.
Yep. Right. Well, thanks for letting us hook up a camera to your helmet for that run. We appreciate that. That was fun.
Yep. Yeah, that was. We've tested a little bit with helmet cams and looking at suspension geometry and engine components. So yeah, it's very nice to be able to look back and say, wow, that's what happened.
Yeah, cool.
So.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Nice meeting you. Hi, I'm talking to Dan Meyer from Gray, Maine, who's up here at Epic at the New England Drags. And Dan, you had a good run on the last one there. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was a good run. We ran Kristen Stanley in the final, and we both left the line at the exact same time. We both had identical reaction times, and we got down the track and didn't see her the whole way, and ran pretty decent time at an 8:49, around 153 miles an hour.
Okay, nice run. Now, what got you started on this whole thing? How long have you been riding?
I've been racing. I raced on the grass. Started about 10 years ago, and I got hooked up with Phil. With my grass stuff, and about 5-6 years ago, and he helped me out for a couple years, and he wanted me to get into the asphalt thing, and waited a couple more years, and then decided to get into it, and here we are. Both been doing it about 4 years. So.
Cool. So you run New England Dragway, yep. And you do the circuit like Kristen does?
I do. Yeah, we chase them around and run the same circuit they do, and run against them quite often.
Now you guys have one more race for the season, is that right?
We do, yep.
And that's in this coming September. This is, what's the date in September?
I believe it's September 10th.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right, well good. Well, thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
And good luck.
All of us at Moody's Collision Centers would like to thank you for supporting us for over 30 years.
We all own stock in Moody's and have a vested interest in you and your vehicle.
The people at Moody's Collision Centers are part of the community, and our reputation is very important to us.
We take pride in our work and guarantee our repairs for as long as you own your vehicle.
At Moody's Collision Center, we care about our customers.
So when your insurance company asks where you want to go, tell them Moody's Collision Centers. 4 convenient locations: Gorham, Scarborough, Biddeford, and now Portland.
5 years ago, I went shopping for my family's first camper. I didn't like the prices, and I didn't like the way I was treated. A year later, I opened up Scott's Recreation.
Today, Scott's Recreation is Maine's exclusive multi-line Heartland dealer, along with being Maine's #1 fifth-wheel dealer 2 years in a row. Browse through the new 2012 Heartland models or take advantage of closeout prices on 2011s. Scott's welcomes almost anything in trade, financing available too. Scott's Recreation, Route 202 in Manchester, and our sister company, Holton Power Sports, North Street, Holton.
Southern Maine Motors, out to be Maine's #1 Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealership, Route 1 Saco.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Mainly Motorsports. Now the hot topic all over the internet and on Facebook are the Mainleys.
Yeah.
They're up.
Wow, baby, they're going, huh?
Yeah.
These people want their awards, you know. And somebody asked me the other day and said, what is it about these Mainleys? It just gets people fired up. And I go, you know, it's one thing we talk about. You win a championship. It's a team effort.
It's recognition.
You've beat people. You've raced all year, you know. And
hey, we're all races, and it's a plaque, but it's a form of a trophy.
Yeah. But now you're in a category where you're not only you've now beat the guys at your track. You beat them already. Now you're trying to beat the other guys at the other tracks, you know, and then
the other guys in your category.
The other guys in your categories, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's day one. You know, Norm got them up. We were late getting them up, but we got them up last week. Day one, over 500 votes came in.
Yeah.
In day one, you know,
That's
and
awesome.
people are just ripping it up, you know, and they just. I'll tell you, there's some battles.
Yeah.
There is some battles, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, I look at them every couple days, you know, and it's funny. You see, you know, percentage-wise, you know, 5 guys in the low teens, you know, all at the same, you know.
And I'm gonna go on the soapbox again here on this, because you and I had this conversation the other day about this, and with my experience in the past with the Mainleys, you know, I wasn't involved at all. You know, I have been a little bit this year, but I wasn't involved in it all. But I voted, and I went to the Mainleys and I voted for people I recognized. Now this year I've got to go with you, you know, via the show to a bunch of different tracks and meet some of these different people and actually see some of these guys run more
follow along
than I
with
had
their
in the
stats,
past,
you know,
and see their stats and stuff like that. And that, I don't want to say it swayed my voting, but I think it made it more honest. You know what I mean? So I'm going to call out everybody out there when you're voting.
Do a little research.
Do some research. Don't vote for just your home track guys, even though that's a nice thing to do. All these people deserve recognition somehow.
Everyone in every category is a fitting winner.
Right.
Because they've won a championship.
They all have.
They're all fitting.
But go do some research and say, you know, Zach Ardetti, that kid won a boatload of races this year.
Yeah.
You know? I never would have
known about Zach.
Right, you know.
Hot Rod, you call him Hot Rod Hopkins, you know.
That guy gets it done.
Yeah, you know, and so, yeah, no, it is. And, you know, every track and every tour and every group has representation. And, and then, you know, I know a few years ago it was awesome because every track had a winner. And I'm not saying if they don't, it's not a big deal, but I agree with what you're saying.
Your favorite might be fitting.
Yeah.
They're all fitting.
Oh, yeah.
Your favorite might be the most fitting. But do a little research. You know, some of the categories that you're not so sure on, do a little research and say, hey.
Go to the website, you know. So you can vote every day. We're going to cut the votes off, I think.
And I got to say, this is, you know, when I went on and voted, the other day you called and told me they were up, I went on and voted. These are some of the best pictures you've got.
Oh, yeah.
In
oh, yeah, these guys,
time.
They want to win that, you know, a trophy. It's recognition. It's recognition, you know. So, you know, go to mainlymotorsportstv.com website and click right on the big Mainleys logo. You can go back once a day and, once a day and vote. And we'll get the numbers and, you know, December 20th, we'll cut the voting off. Gives me 2.5 weeks to get the winning pitches and the plaques put together. And, you know, we'll present them up at the 24th Annual Motorsports Expo that we'll touch on when we come back and wrap up this week's edition of Mainly Motorsports.
Life in Maine is all about outdoor fun and being close to nature. Southern Maine Jeep is all about delivering you the best selection and the best prices at one location. Live it up with a new 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee, increased horsepower and mileage, or go for the all-new look of the Jeep Compass 4x4. If Maine had a state car, it would be the Jeep. No other vehicle has the capabilities that come standard on every Jeep. No other dealer is working as hard to be #1 as Southern Maine Motors.
You're watching Mainly Motorsports, brought to you by Gary Hotels, located in Brunswick, Freeport, Waterville, and Augusta, the official hotel of Mainly Motorsports.
Now, as we wrap up this week's edition, Greg, we opened it with banquets, we closed it a little bit with banquets, but along with banquet season, it's a chance for the teams, whether you are recognized at a banquet or not recognized, it doesn't matter. You still had people that helped you get through the 2011 race season. And it's your chance to reward them with a sponsorship plaque or a trophy or gift certificate or anything, you know. And me and you talked about it this week, you know. I picked up the trophies for the Richmond banquet, you know, and then I was just thinking, geez, I got to get my sponsorship plaques for my daughter that
I went over and picked ours up for, you know, the Naughty 40 race team. Over at Award Champs, you got to go to Award Champs, folks.
Check out the big melon. You know, I'd have a special hat made. But you know, Todd
he does a great job
on Award Champs. Does all our Mainleys, our drivers of the months, any awards we give out. You know, the guys that won awards at Unity this summer saw the trophies we gave out up there, and then you know he'll be doing the awards up to the Northeast Motorsports Expo. So, you know, look him up. Go to our website when you're voting for the Mainleys. You know, while you're there,
super nice guy, great prices.
Click on the sponsor pages. Look around at some of the people that support us. Support them. Support Todd. There he is on the screen. Award Champs. Click on, see what he has to offer. Very easy to deal with, and you'll be surprised at the cost of what some of these.
Yeah, it's the percentage that of the money that you take in from sponsors that you would spend to give back is well worth it.
Yeah, well worth it. And then don't forget the Northeast Motorsports Expo. We're halfway through November. And another less than 2 months now, and I got a call this week. I got 2 calls from 2 tracks. So if you haven't got your stuff in, you better be getting stuff in. And I'm not trying to back in a corner, but I'm getting calls. People want space. People want more space. So you know, I've been lax because I wanted everybody to get through their banquet season. Well, banquet season's just about coming to an end in the next couple of weeks, so you better get your stuff in. Because I got a call from a track, Beach Ridge, always has a beautiful display, right? 3-4 years ago, Beach Ridge brought the pace car and the truck. That's all they had. They couldn't, nobody. It was, you know what I mean? It was a bad year. Nobody wanted to, you know, various reasons, whatever. They've already got 10 people on their list that want a display, and they're expecting calls from more people. So am I going to put 10 cars from Beach Ridge in? No. But what I'm saying is, you know, the people are coming. People are really wanting to get into that show. So if I don't get paperwork from tracks or tours, I'm just going to assume because you got it that you're not interested in coming, so I will go and give these extra tracks 10, 20, 30 more feet, you know, because I need to fill the place up. I'm not going to have it like it was years back, not full. Not taking 70 feet and putting 4 cars in it. 70 feet is going to have 6 cars, booth. I mean, we're going to fill it up. And that's what made the show last year so successful, because there was lots going on. So if you haven't got your paperwork in, if you're a vendor or an exhibitor, you might want to be thinking about or emailing me or sending that paperwork and let me know what's going on, because it's coming sooner than we think.
Yeah, and it's always a great time. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, and then also start planning on making your reservations at the hotels. And anybody that's watching this and wants to stay, I know the Unity banquets this week up in Augusta, you go to the Comfort Inn or you go to the Best Western Inn, give them a call, tell them you want the Mainly Motorsports rate, you get a special room rate, you know, you got to travel back to wherever you live from Augusta because the banquet's in Augusta. And then same thing with the Northeast Motorsports Expo. Call them up, tell me you want the expo rate. And
get a sitter for the kids and take your wife out for the night.
Yeah, get her over to the motel.
Or your husband if you're a female racer.
Oh yeah, there's female races. So we hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For Greg, I'm Steve, and we'll see you next week on Mainly Motorsports.
To order copies of a show, send a check or money order for $15, shipping and handling included, to Mainly Motorsports, 326 Roosevelt Trail, Windham, Maine, 04062. And please add a description of the show.